Hello, my name is Serena Kashmir, and this is my presentation on actors who also write, direct, and produce their own projects. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk through a few actors that are well known as well as one that's up and coming, and I'm going to go through just the highlights of their career and how it relates to writing and directing and producing in line with their acting. Just so we can track the commonalities and the overall arch and how the different jobs that they were a part of played a part in them getting more access to different parts of the industry. Now, some of the benefits of writing, directing, and producing while being an actor is a couple different things. So you get more respect in the industry when you can do more than one thing. It's also great for building relationships, because if you meet some great writers that you were in a writer's room with, then you can obviously become friends with them, and maybe they will be willing to help write your next project. Same with producing, directing, all of that. And of course, if you have more skills than just acting, then you have a wider range of possibilities to make money, make an income. So maybe this month you're not able to book some acting work, but a friend of yours really needs some help directing their latest project, so you can make money that way. Also, learning, writing, directing, producing, especially writing and directing, helps you with your acting. If you're a writer and you understand story from that perspective, you'll have more insight that you can use for your acting. And if you understand what the director is looking for, then that also helps with your acting as well. Makes you a more creative person, and then we get to create what we want. Sometimes as an actor, you have to tell someone else's story and abide by their vision of that story. But if you're producing it, you have more control over who's hired and where that project gets put up for distribution. As a director, you get to make sure that your interpretation of the script gets used. And then, of course, as a writer, you get to make the story that you want to act in. So the first actor that we're going to dive into is Justin Baldoni. If you don't know him, he's most famous for playing the lead Raphael on the TV show Jane the Virgin, which is on the CW. But he is actually from Los Angeles. Then he moved to Oregon. But he started out as a director and an actor on a very small scale. He was more into the filmmaking side, and then his property manager at his apartment building actually pushed him into getting into acting. So, he did the acting thing, he did filmmaking, he did some small music videos on the side, but he actually ended up homeless because he just wasn't able to pay the bills. His first little bit of success was with a docuseries called Our Last Days, and it was about people who are dying and they know that they're dying, advice that they have for the living. And so that was his first claim to fame, and that started him creating his own production company called Wayfarer. And around that time, he booked Jane the Virgin, which is what got him famous and opened a lot of doors for him. He then did Man Enough, which is like an online series where he sits down with a bunch of other male friends of his, a lot of them famous, to talk about what is masculinity, what does it mean in today's age, what do they want it to mean. And even though he had the success of Our Last Days and Jane the Virgin, people weren't understanding what he was trying to do with Man Enough, so he actually self-funded that, and then he did a TED Talk on it as well, which has a few million views on YouTube. So then with the added success of Man Enough, he produced and directed the film 5 Feet Apart, which just came out within the last year or so, and it stars Haley Lou Richardson and Cole Sprouse. And now he's working on a film called Clouds, which is going to be released on Disney+, and it's the story of a friend of his who actually passed away, but was a musician. Of course, I had to include Seth Rogen because he has been writing. He's a comedian, he's an amazing actor, but he's just done these serial projects, just whipping them out, and obviously he's very talented and is well known for being an actor, writer, director, producer. So he started out as a comedian in Canada and had great improvisational skills, which helped him land a lead role in Freaks and Geeks. And even though it only lasted a year, Judd Apatow became good friends with him, and so did James Franco, and they have helped each other get jobs for the rest of their lives. So Seth Rogen has been in a lot of movies that Judd Apatow has directed, and he has also produced movies with Judd as well. And then James Franco, of course, and Seth Rogen have been in a lot of films together. And then with Evan Goldberg, that was actually a childhood friend of his. And, you know, every day after school, they would get together and they would work on this script. And it wasn't until they were older that they were finally able to sell that script, and it became the famous movie Superbad. So ever since that movie has been sold and released, Goldberg and Rogen have worked on numerous films together. They're known as a very famous writing duet, if you will. And one of the other keys in his career was that he was a part of Sacha Baron Cohen's TV show as a staff writer, and he was actually nominated for an Emmy for that as well. Joel Edgerton. He is one of my favorite actors ever, but not everybody knows who he is. So my favorite movie that he's ever been in is called The Gift. He wrote that movie, he starred in it, he directed it, he produced it as well, and he won the award for Best Director from the Directors Guild. It's an amazing movie, you should check it out. But he also has done Boy Erased and The King, which has Timothée Chalamet, that just came out on Netflix. He acted in that and helped produce it, and it's incredible. But Joel Edgerton, who was also in The Great Gatsby with Leonardo DiCaprio, he is originally from Australia. He did attend drama school, though I don't think he graduated. He did a ton of theater work, very high level, Sydney Opera House, and some film as well, including some of the Star Wars movies. Now, his brother, Nash, is a filmmaker and a stuntman, and the two of them have paired together on all of the projects that they've created themselves. So this is another example, just like Seth Rogen, of finding someone you work really well with and then just knocking out all of the films together. Okay, so this is the last actor that I'm going to feature, Jacqueline Bethany. This is actually a friend of mine that I wanted to highlight because she isn't famous yet, but she's gaining a lot of recognition right now, and she's extremely talented. So she has her bachelor's, she has actually 2 master's degrees. She's been at the top schools in New York, in Los Angeles, in London, and also in Iceland as well. Her latest web series, which is the first web series TV show she's ever done, was just nominated for an Emmy this year, and one of her actresses won the Emmy for that. It's called The Rehearsal. But before that, she actually has done 12 shorts, and some of them have won awards. And then she has an upcoming feature coming out called Indigo Valley, and then another one that hasn't been announced yet. But this is an example of someone who might not be famous, but she's got a lot of skills and training under her belt, and she is just getting all of these films out as fast as she can. So looking at the examples that I gave you, as well as some others that I was looking up, these are some of the commonalities that I found between them. So winning awards at festivals helps, networking and gaining recognition, and it really helps to get that next project funded. Of course, even higher up than film festivals, if you can win a SAG award, an Oscar, an Emmy, those look very good as well. A lot of these people, they took a short film that they wrote or directed, and then they extended it into a feature film. So the short would win a bunch of awards, and that would help them gain the funding to make the full feature film. And then having a successful feature, of course, helped them become more well-known and respected as well. To get some of these short films off the ground, a lot of them had to do crowdfunding, especially those who weren't famous in the beginning. Kickstarter, Indiegogo, those type of websites were used. All of these projects, especially in the beginning when the doors weren't opening for them, they had to create a lot of buzz. So, interviews and getting their famous friends involved and finding stories that were relevant to the time, making sure that the underrepresented were being a part of their projects, finding cool locations and unique stories and things that a bigger budget project probably wouldn't have. They would use that to their benefit. Now, of course, getting with the best people also helps you become better at the skills that you want. So if you want to become a better writer, these people were finding the best writers in the business to sponge off of. Same with directing and acting and all of that. So all of these people were surrounding themselves with people who were one tier above them or friends that were gaining recognition at a fast pace. Training. Some of them had degrees, some of them didn't, but they all found ways to put in a lot of work in a short amount of time, whether it was a bunch of movies, a bunch of plays, or like Jacqueline, 2 master's and a bachelor's degree. And some of them did intensives as well, where there's no certification or anything, it's just a few weeks of intense study. They all used any success that they had in one area to apply it to another. So if their acting took off, they said, great, I'm a successful actor, you should hire me to write, and so on and so forth. Some of these guys, even the famous ones, if they couldn't get their projects picked up, they would fund it themselves. A lot of them would pick a few of their best friends to work with on all of the same projects, and overall they just put in the time and more time and work than anybody else. So here are some ideas of things you can do to get started if you're interested in writing, directing, or producing as an actor. So you can go to film school. There's the LA Film School, the New York Film Academy. There's a ton of regular universities that offer filmmaking programs, USC, UCLA. It could be anywhere. But you can get a degree or a certification in directing, screenwriting, producing, and learn that way. And that's a good way to network with your teachers and your fellow classmates and to have a solid foundation in an area other than acting. You can enter contests and festivals. So a lot of contests will give you feedback on your material so that you know kind of how you gauge in reference to the other writers out there, other directors. Some of these, if you win the contests, they'll actually fund your project for you. So if you're a director with a great idea and you've paired with a writer friend, you can submit your idea, and if they love it, they'll throw the cash at you and you can make it. In festivals, you can get the laurels put on your films and gain recognition that way. You can buy screenwriting software, camera equipment, whatever you need to get started doing things on your own or to be hired by other people. Just to learn the skills, you need the tools to practice on. If you don't want to spend all that money in film school, you can purchase online courses. Some are very cheap at like $30 at udemy.com. There's others that are much more expensive. There's the No Filmmaking School website. And there's fulltimefilmmaker.com. That one I think is about $500. Of course, you can Google and YouTube to your heart's content. There's a lot of free information out there. If you pair the information with practice, you'll learn a lot. Volunteer. So say Jacqueline Bethany, the up-and-coming girl that I showed you here, because she's up-and-coming, if you offer your services for free, she's more likely to take you on and have you as a PA on set or to shadow her or something like that. Just to help you be in the environment and see what it's really like without getting in anyone's way, but you're gaining experience that you can then use to get a paid gig. You can also freelance. There's a lot of websites out there, even Fiverr, where you can just get experience for small little projects that people may need anywhere in the world because the internet is great. And then you can ask people for guidance. So if you know someone who is a great writer, you could say, hey, would you take 5 minutes to read my short film, and just see what they say. And that's a great way to get feedback, and maybe they can help you with the ins and outs of the industry or help you meet people and that kind of thing. So, what can we learn from these wonderful people? Create, create, create. Don't think about it. Make a plan if you must, but don't get stuck on the details. Just go out and make a bunch of stuff. Associate with the best people and get your stuff out there. Make sure that people are seeing it. It can be very cheaply done. Some festivals, early bird price is $35. You can enter into a fellowship. There's like the AFI fellowship. There's the women's directing workshop that's about 6 weeks long. Get with the best people and help them out. Ask for what you want. Go out there and pitch your project for funding. Go on to Indiegogo and ask for money that way. Find people that you work well with, that inspire you, and that are good at things that you might not be, so that the group of you can go out and make things quickly, and you'll have a shorthand to communicate with each other, and it takes a lot of the extra time and guesswork out of it. Tell stories that mean something to you. The big studios have the normal stories we've all heard and seen a million times. But what do you know that you haven't seen that you would like to see? What would you like to act in? Go make that. Build a body of work. Don't just be okay with one project and sit back and feel like, okay, I'm good. But use the momentum of every success or failure to move along and stack up these credits as best as you can. Learn from the best people and do your best. Thank you so much. This is Serena Kashmir with actors who write, direct, and produce their own projects.